All right, folks, welcome back. So today we're doing some more testing in 223, and we're testing some more copper bullets, or I should say monolithic bullets. The first is the 70 grain Barnes TSX, which is in fact a solid copper bullet. And the other is the Hornady GMX, also 70 grain. Now this Hornady GMX has been replaced with a newer version called the CX. I think the CX has got a little bit different cantilever design, but so this is the old one. It's not a big deal. If these shoot pretty good, hopefully the CX will also shoot pretty good for us as well. We're going to be shooting two different powders. The first is Vihtavuori N540, and the next is IMR 8208 XBR. So the main reason for this test today is the same that we've done in some previous videos, is to compare how these bullets and powders are going to group with a dirty barrel versus a clean barrel. There's some information out there that especially the solid copper bullets like the Barnes bullets shoot better from a clean barrel that is completely decoppered. Now the Hornady GMX and also their new CX, they're not copper, they're a gilding metal alloy, which is a little bit harder, and at this point we don't really know what's going on, but I think the Hornady GMX and CX bullets should be more tolerant to the dirty barrel. At least that's the theory. Now I've got another video with these two bullets where we shot them with Alliant Power Pro 2000 MR. I looked back to that test. The results were mixed. There were a few decent groups, 5-shot groups, but there were some pretty crappy ones as well. So we'll see how they do today with these other two powders. And like I said, most importantly, I want to see if we can observe this dirty barrel versus clean barrel situation. Particularly with the Barnes, we should see a bigger group, a noticeably bigger group with the dirty barrel than we do with a completely clean barrel. Now, if you caught my last video, it was also a 223 video. We were shooting the 77 grain Sierra Match King, which is a standard, lead core bullet that shoots pretty good in this gun. We also shot some 77 grain Burgers and some 40 grain Noslers, but the groups were good. If we see these sorts of groups today, I'll be more than happy with that. But most importantly for today, I'm going to start with the dirty gun. Our first groups are going to be dirty, and I'm going to come inside, clean the gun, and then shoot the clean ones. Because the gun's pretty dirty. I've got definitely over 200 shots, and maybe closer to 300 shots since the last time I cleaned it and, removed the copper from the bore. So hopefully it'll be good and dirty, and hopefully we'll be able to observe this clean barrel versus dirty barrel group changing thing. So for brass, we're still shooting the same Lake City 2018 brass. It's all brand new brass. It's the same stuff we've been shooting in the previous tests with the copper bullets. The primers are CCI 450s, and here is the load data I'm going to use. I was a little bit nervous about this load data. So Vihtavuori has got data on their site for the Hornady GMX, and the Hornady manual has got 8208 XBR data for the GMX. So I had plenty of data for the GMX, but didn't really have much to go off of for the Barnes. So what I've already done is loaded up a couple rounds and gone out and shot them to just make sure the velocities were going to be where I expected them and that there weren't any pressure signs on the brass and whatnot. So these charge weights that you're seeing, I've already checked them. The brass looks good. The velocities look good. They should, I think everything should be in the 2,600 feet per second range. Didn't want to push them too hard, but also didn't want super low velocity either. So we should be in the 2600s. Now the Hornady GMX, I've got 64 of these, and both of these boxes are the exact same lot number. So nothing to worry about there. And with 64 bullets, that makes 4 groups of 16 shots. So we'll have a 16 shot group, dirty then clean, with each of our powders. 16 shots should be enough to give us a good idea of how they're shooting. Now, unfortunately on the Barnes, the lot numbers are different. So I've got, I've got 67 of these. So one box has 17, which means that one of our tests, the dirty versus clean, is actually going to be a different lot number of bullet, which really sucks, but it is what it is. I've had these bullets for years. I know I bought them right around the same time. So while they're not the exact same lot number, hopefully they're pretty close. But like I said, it is what it is. We'll take note of it. I'm going to follow, exactly. It's going to be one of the 8208 XBRs are going to be where the lot number difference shows up, and I'll mention it later, and we'll keep it in mind as we evaluate the results. Is that it? Anything else to talk about? There's not that much interesting to talk about. on the reloading side here today. Our brass is fully prepped and primed and ready for powder and bullets. And since I went out to do those pressure and velocity tests earlier, my seating die is already set up and ready to go. So not really much to show you for the reloading process on this one. So I'm going to jump straight to weighing powder. I've had the RCBS Charge Master Light fired up and warming up for a couple of hours, so it's ready to go. So this should all be pretty quick. We'll be on the range in no time. It's probably a good thing that I'm not going to have much to talk about here during the reloading process, because with 2 powders, 2 bullets, 3 different charge weights, it's going to be easy to get myself confused. So I think what I'm going to do, so this first powder is Vihtavuori N540. I think I'm going to weigh out all of the charges for this powder, then seat all of the bullets, and then move on to 8208 XBR. So let's see, 23.5. All right, this is going to take a while. All right, so I got all my Vihtavuori stuff weighed out. I've got the appropriate bullets sitting on top of each piece of brass ready for seating. Got 2 ammo boxes here. All right, I think I'm ready. So I am using the Hornady bullet seating die today with the micro adjuster on top. And the overall length on the Hornadys, I went with 2.255 inches, only because that was the closest major increment on the adjuster. So basically, when I'm seating the Hornadys, I'm going to put this on 2, and when I'm seating the other ones, I'm going to put it on 0. So that'll make it easy to switch back and forth. Seat a couple of them and then measure it out just to make sure I didn't mess up my notes. Nope, that's perfect. Now, if you saw my last video, we were testing out the new micrometer adjuster from Lee, and that was pretty great. But after it was posted, some folks mentioned that I set up that seating die incorrectly, and they were completely correct. And I still had some rounds I needed to seat. So I came back to the bench and I set it up correctly and ended up with a couple that looked like this, which is not good. So at some point I need to revisit that die and try and figure out why it was doing that when I set it up per the instructions. But I didn't want to screw around with that today, so we just switched back over to the Hornady to make life easy. Okay, that's the last of the Hornadys with this powder. So switching over to the Barnes, change my adjustment, and this should be 2.250. I'll go ahead and seat a couple and then check. Those look right. Need to make sure I'm organizing these ammo boxes properly. Put them in the order I'm planning to shoot. Probably do 1 box to take out and shoot with the dirty barrel, and then a completely separate box for the others. Like I said, very easy to get confused. Now these copper Barnes bullets are seating nice and smooth, and I'm not having any problems with lead shavings, or I'm sorry, copper shavings. That's something you got to be on the lookout for, because if you don't have a nice chamfer on the case mouth, you can end up digging into your bullet, which I can't imagine that would be good for accuracy. All right, down to the last one. No problems to report. I need to repeat this whole process over again with IMR 8208 XBR. I'm not going to make you guys sit through any of that, so unless I run into problems, I'll just see you out on the range. But if I run into any problems, I'll be sure to turn the camera on. All right, folks, it's time to get started. I've got a target at 100 yards. I've got a camera down there. Hopefully that'll work. I'll be able to give you some target camera footage, but we've also got the shot marker electronic target system running, so we can keep track of things as they go. You might notice, so up in the top right-hand corner of the shot marker, it's where you can watch the group size, and you can also see some velocities there. A lot of people mention that in the comments about those numbers being low. That is velocity at the target. So the shot marker attempts to make a velocity measurement at the target. So that's going to be a couple hundred feet per second below the 2600-ish muzzle velocity we're expecting. And got the lab radar chronograph set up to get those muzzle velocities. This gun's got an 18-inch white oak barrel with a 1-in-7 twist and a rifle length gas system. It's one of their SPR barrels. Our first group is going to be with the Hornady GMX. I think what I'm planning to do, so I really want the Barnes bullet, the Barnes TSX, to have the worst barrel conditions. So I want to make sure that it's as dirty and fouled as we can get it for the Barnes. And then after our cleaning, I want to shoot the Barnes first. I want to give the Barnes the best barrel conditions after the cleaning. Like I mentioned earlier, the Barnes are copper, and these Hornadies are a harder gilding metal that should be affected less in this test. I don't know, we'll see. That's why we're testing it. So first up is Vihtavuori N540, 23.5 grains. This is going to be a 16-shot group. So let's get started. Got some pretty gusty winds today. Just got to wait them out. Kind of annoying. It's all right though. It forces you to take your time. Okay, so our group is about what we have come to expect with this style of bullet. 1.39 inches. Not good, not horrifically bad. The velocity was 2651, standard deviation 19, extreme spread of 82. Whole bunch of mediocre. All right, I'm gonna take a break for just a second. I don't wanna get the gun too hot, and then we'll come back and shoot the 8208 XBR. Okay, next up is the same bullet with 8208 XBR, 23.0 grains of it. See if this shoots any better. Okay, so that group's a little bit uglier, 2.12 inches. The muzzle velocity was 2643, standard deviation 12, extreme spread 39. So a whole bunch of ugly. All right, I want to take another break and then we'll move over to the Barnes TSX. Okay, with the Barnes TSX, we're going to start with Vihtavuori N540, 23.0 grains. This is going to be a 16-shot group. Let's see what happens. right, so that was pretty ugly. I'm not even sure that my camera was zoomed out enough to get those low shots, but just not good at all. 2.92 inches. The velocity was 2641, standard deviation 18.8, and an extreme spread of 59. So the less said about this, the better. Take a quick break. We'll move on to 8208 XBR next. Okay, so the Barnes bullet with 8208 XBR, this is going to be a 17-shot group, and these are the 17 bullets I had left in that one box. So this is one lot number, and then our clean barrel group with 8208 XBR is going to be the other lot number. Let's see how they do. Okay, so that group's a little bit better than the last one, 1.88 inches. Velocity was 2617, standard deviation 10.4, and an extreme spread of 37. So pretty crappy groups across the board here with our dirty barrel. Not surprising. It's what we've come to expect with these types of bullets. So I'm hoping I've got enough daylight to get inside and get the barrel cleaned up and then get back out here and shoot. If I run into problems, like if I can't get the barrel clean the way I want, I'm not going to rush it. Like if I got to shoot him tomorrow, that's fine. But I'd rather shoot him today. I'm not going to be screwing around. Like I'm going to hit this with some, some basic solvent to knock out most of the carbon, and then I'm going straight to the JB bore paste because my earlier cleanings with the gun, the JB was really the only thing that budged the copper fouling. So just going to, not messing around. I'm going to take my time, make sure I get the barrel clean, but no screwing around, no long soaks, none of that sort of stuff. So let's go do that. Okay, so it is in fact the following day. It was a complete nightmare trying to get all of the copper out of this barrel. And I want to talk a lot more about it once we're done here and get back to the bench, because I don't know if it was our last video where we were shooting some Lehigh defense bullets, or if it's one of the bullets we're shooting today, or all of them in combination. This gun ended up with a tremendous amount of copper fouling, much more than I expected. So I've got plenty of videos from the bore scope and stuff like that. We'll talk about that later at the bench. And I'm also interested to see, like once I shoot these shots today, I want to have a look at how much copper fouling's left behind. But a complete nightmare. But we're back here on the range. I'll be interested to see how much copper fouling we pick up with the rounds I'm about to shoot, because the barrel's completely clean and stripped, so we'll see what happens. Like I mentioned earlier, I want to start with the Barnes bullets. So our first group is going to be Vihtavuori N540. Yesterday's group with this combination was about 3 inches. The wind is a little bit worse today than it was yesterday, but it's gusty and it's coming and going, so hopefully I can wait it out. I've got plenty of time, plenty of daylight, so should be able to dodge the gusts, hopefully. Okay, this is going to be a 17-shot group, and these bullets are the same lot number that we shot in the other group. Everything is the same. So let's see what happens. Tell you, the first crazy thing I'm noticing is we have lost a bunch of velocity. Yesterday's average was 2641, and all of these have been in the 2500s. That last shot was 2545. Interesting. So average velocity today was 2553. Yesterday was 2641. What is that, 88 feet per second? We lost 88 feet per second just by removing the copper fouling. And this might actually, so this might tie back to my last video where we were shooting some of my favorite old loads with the 77 grain Sierra Match King and unexpectedly ran into pressure problems. So that's how bad this barrel was copper fouled, enough to significantly affect pressure and raise velocity almost 90 feet per second. That is crazy. So the group, today's group sucked about the same as yesterday's group. Kind of see them both there. Yeah, so it was 2.43 inches. Yesterday it was 2.92 inches. Now with this freshly cleaned barrel, you could definitely make a case for ignoring the first shot. So let's do that. That brings it down to a 1.70 inch group. And it actually does look quite a bit better without that first oil shot. So I guess that's something. Very interesting. All right, I'm going to take a break for a second, let the gun cool down, and then we'll move on. So I looked at the velocities across that last group, and they didn't seem to be like climbing. It's not like they started low and were slowly creeping back up to where we were before. So it'll be interesting to watch as we go if the velocities do start to get closer to what they were yesterday as we lay down some copper with these. All right, next up, 8208 XBR. Yesterday's group was 1.88 inches. And this is the group that's going to have the split lot numbers. So we'll just keep that in mind. Okay, so that is a 1.62 inch group, but it was clearly trying to group. Let's hide these low ones and see what it looks like. Yeah, 15 of the 17 shots went into 0.91 inches. And you know, yesterday it looked like a shotgun pattern, so this is a huge improvement. Later on at the bench, we'll look at the mean radius group size, and that should tell us just how, yeah, here's the group from, yeah, here's the group from yesterday. So big improvement there. Now the velocity average was 2562. Yesterday it was 2617. Was that 55 or so feet per second, or exactly 55. Standard deviation 15.1, extreme spread 55. Very interesting. All right, another quick break, and then we'll move on to the Hornady GMX. Okay, time to get back to it. Switching over to the 70 grain Hornady GMX. This first group is going to be with Vihtavuori N540. The group I shot yesterday was pretty decent. It was a 1.39 inch group, and the velocity was 2651. So let's see how it does today. Okay, so our group's a little bit bigger today. It's a 1.81 inch group versus a 1.39 inch group yesterday. The velocity went from 2651 down to 2597. So 54 feet per second slower, standard deviation 16.9, extreme spread 69. The groups actually look pretty similar, but that total group size just got a little bit bigger. I'll be interested to see the mean radius group, the mean radius size once we get back to the bench. I bet they're pretty similar. All right, quick break, and then we got one more group to go. Okay, last up, 23 grains of 8208 XBR with the Hornady GMX. This will be a 16 shot group. So that group was pretty much identical to the group we shot with this combo yesterday. So today it was 2.09 inches. The last group was 2.12 inches. So both of them basically 2.1 inches. The velocity went from 2643 down to 2582. Was that 61 feet per second lost? Standard deviation was 11.8 and extreme spread was 41. So my initial thoughts here are, except for the velocity difference, right? The Hornadys showed the same velocity drop, but the groups were exactly the same. But the Barnes bullets got quite a bit better with the clean barrel, which is kind of what we should expect. It falls in line with what we thought we might see. All right, let's get packed up, get back to the bench. Okay, so these results are wild. I've been scribbling all over this target. It's a bit of a mess. I promise not to make you look at it too long, but the dirty barrel groups are on top, the clean barrel groups are on the bottom. So the velocity drop with the clean barrel. So this was the first group that we shot with the totally clean barrel. That's the one where we lost 88 feet per second. The next we shot this one, we lost 55 feet per second. Then we moved over here, 54 and 61. Now I pulled the mean radius numbers out of the shot marker. The mean radius is if you calculate the center of the group and then measure how far it is from the center to each shot, and then take an average, that's your mean radius. All four groups got better with the clean barrel. So the improvement with the Barnes bullets was more than the Hornady GMX. A couple of the groups were actually halfway decent. So this is the Barnes with IMR 8208 XBR and a clean barrel, that 1.62 inch group. It was trying to do something. That was probably the most impressive group. I'll put up some, velocity numbers and group size information there so you don't have to look at this messy target. Feels like we learned some stuff. Now I could spend about 20 minutes here showing you videos from the bore scope, but I feel like the velocity shift should make it obvious the sort of copper fouling I was dealing with. And I checked on the shot marker, I checked the target velocities as well, and we saw the same drop down there at the target. So it wasn't something weird going on with my chronograph or anything like that. I'll tell you what, thank God for this Bortec copper remover. This is an old bottle. I don't know if their current formula is as nasty as this stuff is, but it was the most effective when things got crazy. I was just looking at the instructions, and it does say that if necessary, Bortec's copper remover may be left in the bore overnight. It will not damage the bore. I didn't realize that. I thought this stuff was one of those that you needed to get out of there in a timely manner. So that's good to know, because I've got another copper cleaning project on my hands now, because after I was done shooting, I came in, I did an overnight soak with a foaming bore cleaner, just some of this Hoppy's stuff. And then I used some Butch's bore shine with a nylon brush. And what's left behind is this right here. This is right around the gas port area. It starts before the gas port, so it's not like related to the gas port, but it's in that area of the barrel, but it's just copper smeared all over the place. And back near the chamber, at the start of the barrel. It's not nearly as bad, but there's definitely some copper in there as well. So I'm going to need to go at it with some Vortec. Try and get the thing clean. Now I am left with a question of, which one of these bullets caused that sort of dramatic copper fouling, and don't really have an answer to that. It's also left me wondering, maybe this bore is just prone to this, because this bore is a little bit rough, right? Plenty of tooling marking in there. There's some like weird spots. So maybe this bore is just rough, and it's always going to have problems getting fouled with copper bullets. I've got a couple other 22 caliber bullets that I want to test, and maybe we'll switch guns and test some of those in my bolt action rifle and see if it has the same problems. I've got some 6.5 millimeter bullets that I want to test in 6.5 Creedmoor. So actually that's probably what we'll do next. My next copper bullet test is going to be back in 6.5 Creedmoor, and we'll see how that barrel does. Let's see, is there anything else to talk about here from today's test? Like I said, I feel like we're learning. I did not expect to see that big velocity jump. It makes so much sense, like the pressure problems we had in my last video. Yeah, the one where we shot these groups and tested out the Lee seating die micrometer. It was baffling. Like these were loads I had shot a bunch of times in the past, and all of a sudden we're getting pressure problems and tearing up brass. And I feel 100% confident now that it was all about this barrel being copper fouled as bad as it was. So it feels good to have an answer for that. Another thing somebody had brought up in the comments section of my last video, mentioning that they had seen some inconsistencies or some inaccuracies with the shot marker. Like it's, it doesn't seem to be as accurate as it used to be. And I've been noticing that as well, but I think a lot of it has got to do with wind. It's been a windy spring so far, and I've had a hard time getting on the range on those calm days. But the sensors for the shot marker are on a wooden frame, but the target is hanging on corrugated plastic. And a lot of times in the target camera, you'll see it bouncing around and stuff, but the target camera has like anti-shake, capabilities as well. So it's actually worse than what you're seeing in the target camera. So I think that's where most of that is coming from, just the target whipping back and forth and the bullets landing in slightly different spots in relationship to the sensor. But hopefully next time I'm on the range, it'll be a nice calm day and we'll see. But it might be time to maybe replace some cables or double check my target and make sure that everything's square and that the sensors are mounted exactly where I want them to be. So I'll get to the bottom of that as well. I mean, it's not much. It's not anything I'm concerned about. It's not enough to change any of our measurements or numbers by more than maybe 1/10 of an inch or something. And that's just not enough to worry about or freak out about. But we'll keep an eye on it. So my next video is going to be a 12 gauge video. Turkey season's just about here. I need to load up some shotgun shells. So be on the lookout for that. See you guys next time.